El Blasto Elemento, which of course, I'll translate that for everyone. That means, in German, that El Blasto Elemento is German for Luxeley sucks at PvP. Remember that. It's very important. So leave it in the comments, El Blasto Elemento, to tell me how bad I am at PvP. Listen, this is a class here, Elemental Shaman, that is probably one of the least played classes I have, but I'm having a blast with it, so I think I'm going to be playing it a lot more. I've dabbled with every single class in the game, and I strongly prefer ranged DPS over melee, just because I know my strengths and weaknesses. I am not particularly good at melee classes, but Elemental Shaman really feels complete, and I really am digging the animations. And what I mean by complete, let me expand on this further. First of all, the damage is very good. Second of all, you have a hell of a lot of utility, and you have some damage mitigators, and you have mobility. That necessarily cannot be said for other classes. And one of the biggest things about utility with Ele Shaman is that you have a range CC, or you have a range slow, root, something to that effect, stun with the lightning totem. Killing spree, you got it, babe. So that's one of the things that make the class feel very, very complete. Now, I've tried all kinds of warlocks. Problem with warlocks, yes, they're very tanky. Yes, they can do a hell of a lot of damage, but they're extremely susceptible to slows or snares. And yes, you can mitigate that by using the portal, but if you go that route, you're going to be losing out on something else that you're going to kind of need quite a bit. Shadow Priest is basically rinse and repeat, copy and paste, same exact thing. Very vulnerable to slows. But Shadow Priests don't have those defensive mitigators that, say, Warlock has, where they have not one, but two defensive mitigators, and the healing's about the same, honestly. So with Shadow Priest, you're going to have to get some kind of outside help. Now, I was busting on Shadow Priest a while back, made a video where I had this shadow form turkey. And the fact of the matter is, I've seen a ton of Shadow Priests do extraordinarily well in 3s and 2s. And it tells me either I'm doing something wrong or that they're getting help. I think it's a combination of both. I really do. And for me, here's why you got to play something that's fun. Because if you play something that's fun, you're not particularly good at it, you're going to stick with it and find a way to make it work. And that's just something that I'm not into with Shadow. I don't like the fact that they lost that run and gun style and all those instant casts. I don't like the fact that they lost Mind Blast crit stun. I also don't like the fact that they lost Psychic and also Spectral Guise. Now, as far as Cascade, I could do with that. I always thought that that was a stupid ability, although a highly beneficial one, because in its happy randomness back in WoD, Cascade used to accidentally hit a target below that threshold where your damage increaser and your heal increaser kicks in. So that, you know, for me, it just wasn't as fun, and I just couldn't sit there and figure out how to do it. And like I said, that's why it's very important to play what you find fun, because you will find a way to make it work, and that's the key here. Now, as far as mages go, Fire doesn't have what Frost and Arcane have. Frost and Arcane are both very, very good. Arcane, the problem with both of them, though, is that you don't have any kind of heals whatsoever, really. You're going to have to steal HOTS from other players. Not always the case, or something that can be done in Arena. So, for example, unless there's no Resto Druid around, you're not going to steal any significant HOTS. And even if you're Arcane, if you start stealing HOTS, the mana cost is through the roof. It's just like massive, massive mana cost, which basically is contradictory and is not helping your DPS, because how much mana you have, obviously, for an Arcane mage is very, very important when it comes to DPS. Somebody just popped hero. I think it was me. I'm not sure. But we're just kicking butt here. Absolutely kicking butt. And this is and I've said this many times, this is the perfect example of what happens when you have teamwork, or you have a team that knows what roles they should be taking on and takes them on and works as a unit, focuses the same targets. As you can see, we're all basically beating up this demon hunter. Why? Because he's a demon hunter, and we know that if we gang up on him, we're going to take him out, as opposed to like him fighting off 2-3 players at a time, which is normally what he does, except for today. Sorry, not today. So we have a commanding lead here, but I'm really having a lot of fun with Elemental. And like I said, I think that if you look on the WoW forums, the official forums, you look on MMO Champion, I think you see people complaining about their class. And this is PvP related. I'm not necessarily talking PvE, because the whole game, or 80% of the game, is designed and focused on PvE, which means that PvPers aren't necessarily happy. Now, when some of these classes are complaining, particularly warriors, they're talking about their rotation is just way too simple. And Blizzard made it a point by saying that they're not going to be changing a lot of classes, or at least a huge overhaul change, with the exception of maybe Survival Hunter and Demonology Warlocks. Very curious to see what they'll do with Demonology Warlocks. As far as Survival Hunters, put it this way, I would rather play MM or BM, and if I'm going to play a melee, I'm going to play another class. I'm going to play a Frost DK, I'm going to play a Demon Hunter, maybe even a Rogue, or even a Warrior. I mean, I would rather play all those other melee classes than a Survival Hunter. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Survival Hunters suck. I've seen some people really get their game on and know what they're doing with survival and do it extraordinarily well. But here's the problem with survival. If you're going toe-to-toe with any given plate, the plate is going to have some kind of stun, aka Asphyxiate or Remorseless Winter, obviously Hammer of Justice, Paladins, Warriors, we all know they got 80,000 stuns. Here's the point though, you're going up against plate 1v1, both of you are essentially doing physical damage, or at least the bulk of what is your big damage is going to be physical damage. And when you're doing that, physical damage, he's doing more damage than you are because he has plate. Also, if he stuns you, he's going to get a window of opportunity where he's doing damage and you're not. That's the biggest problem with Survival Hunters. Now, good Survival Hunters will go LOS and constantly be at one of the flanks of a plate melee class. In other words, they'll be at his side, they'll be behind him, so he can't necessarily get that stun off effectively. And that's a good way to neutralize it, but that takes a lot of skill, and a skilled plate player is not going to let you do that. An average player will, but a skilled one won't. So I'm kind of curious to see what they do at Survival, but the reality is, I'm sure whatever they do, there will be another melee class that's going to perform better both in Battlegrounds and Arena. I'm pretty confident of that. But we're kicking butt. We are just kicking butt. And yes, I'm kind of noob here with Elemental. I'm just learning it. And actually, I've been playing more Resto than I have Elemental. And I gotta say, Resto Shaman are in a really good place, because actually I've been playing healers across the board in twos, except for Druids. I tried a Druid a while back, and it was just a horrible experience for me. But I was in Battlegrounds, I was up against pre-mades, and I had not one, but two hunters on me, and of course nobody peeled for me. And then I'd Shadow Meld, and pets go away, and then they just pop a flare, and next thing you know, they're on me again. And nobody helps. Nobody helps. That's the difference between Horde and Alliance. Horde have a better team mentality, with the exception of this Battleground, because there's always an exception. I just got to try to kill this warrior. Getting distance, Alright, we'll get some distance. Here's the thing, too. Somebody had mentioned that one of the things that's very, very unfair is the fact that every single melee class has a silence. Matter of fact, even Death Knights and Demon Hunters have a ranged silence, which is a lot more potent and powerful than, say, a melee ranged silence. Which is fine. I'm not arguing that. But why is it that not a single DPS caster possesses any kind of a disarm? That's where it just kind of gets a bit unfair. This has been a heavily melee favored X-Pack. Now, I'm not complaining here. I'm criticizing. There's a difference, because a lot of these things can be changed for the better, and all I want is a fair gameplay. Now, people will argue, well, Luxley, you're a noob. Luxley's a noob because Luxley doesn't realize the game is balanced around threes. Well, I will say that it's attempted to be balanced around threes, but it's not balanced around threes because there's not a lot of comps out there that are viable. A lot of comps out there, I shouldn't say viable, but I should say competitive. If it was truly balanced around threes, effectively, in other words, they attempt to do it and they succeed, there would certainly be a lot more comps available to people, and I'm dead, and it's thanks for playing, Luxley. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of kills, but that's just simply because my team is aces, baby. Aces. Got a really good team. This is the advantage of having a good team. It brings out the best in DPS casters, especially DPS casters who really don't play Elemental Shaman that often and are just kind of like hitting buttons that light up. That's my DPS plan. But quick thoughts on this. Guys, would you agree it's a melee-heavy expansion? Hopefully things change and they're more fair and balanced next X-Pack. This is Luxley saying whatever it is by you, morning, afternoon, or night. Make it fun. Make it epic. Have a great one. Thanks for watching.